Now, shifting gears for the next 30 minutes, and then we're going to have Peter Schiff joining us, is Kurt-Haskell. Government entrapment underwear bomber case. Kurt-Haskell reports. We had him on the nightly news a few nights ago. Here's another one. Kurt-Haskell blows the whistle on underwear bomber given bomb by U.S. government to boost TSA budget and implement body scanners. That's We Are Change InfoWars reporting on what he said. Flight 253 passenger Kurt-Haskell. I was visited by the FBI. This is back from December of 2009. Everything he talked about has come true, what he and his wife saw, and now he is saying inside job. Kurt, we're going to a break in a moment, but recap and give us the latest developments. You've been going to the beginning of the trial, and even the standby lawyer, you said their case, if they could take it, would be entrapment.
Right. You know, as I've been saying, I've been going to the hearings because I found out that the mainstream media isn't really reporting what's going on at the hearings, not in my opinion. So I've been going down, witnessing them. And, you know, it's quite apparent that the prosecution's hiding evidence from the defense. And, you know, you'd have to ask, why are they doing that? Number one, if we have some crazy lunatic Al-Qaeda guy, you know, with 200 some odd witnesses here that saw him try to blow up a plane, why do we have to hide evidence? So, you know, that's a big question that people need to think about. And, you know, as I talked about on your show a couple days ago, the evidence that was recently turned over to Chambers ties in with exactly what I've been saying all along. They withheld this evidence for 19 months or so to not let Chambers hire experts to look at it, to testify on behalf of the defense, or to analyze it. And, you know, things like the passport, I guess it took them a while to create Umar's passport, 18, 19 months, because, you know, he didn't have it, as I've been saying all along, and things like that. I don't know. Do you want me to keep going, Alex? Do you have a break?
Yeah, this is just incredible. Yeah, we're going to break in a moment. I want you to come back and recap all this. But sure. Just like they planted passports on 9/11, and then it turned out it was the wrong guy they planted it on, so they withdrew those. Just like they found one at the Flight 93 site. You witnessed him being gotten on the plane without the passport. Later, the State Department had to admit, and we got that clip coming up in Congress, that an unnamed agency ordered them to give him the visa. And so you've got them. And it just really shows you just how criminal the prosecutors are as well. They're all complicit, and I guess they love it.
Yeah, you know, it's really obvious to me that the prosecutors are in on this. You can just tell with what they say at the hearings and their attitude. And, you know, they know they have an open and shut case, but not for the reasons you think. They have an open and shut case because they know he doesn't have an attorney. He only has a standby attorney.
Stay there. Let's recap it all on the other side. Kurt-Haskell with incredible information that could bring these criminals down if we use it. Okay, Kurt-Haskell is our guest. He and his wife are both attorneys. He survived the underwear bombing attack from the flight from Amsterdam to Detroit, Michigan on Christmas Day back in 2009. And Kurt, recap for listeners that just tuned in the latest developments, the inconsistencies, and now as a survivor, the fact that you are clearly saying that this is an inside job in your researched view. Right. Well, Alex, I think the evidence is now overwhelming that this is definitely a false flag set up by the U.S. government. Just anyone that does their research, I think, will come to the same conclusion. Obviously, this being part of my life, I've done thousands of hours of research into this. So, you know, I think you have to take a look at who can control the not only the media, but the courts, the prosecutors, what witnesses say or don't say, who can control what law enforcement says and what the victim says. And there's only one entity that can do that, in my opinion, the U.S. government. That's what we have here, and it's becoming increasingly obvious. If you go back to a hearing I went to on July 7, 2011, this was a hearing set up by standby attorney Chambers. Remember, Chambers, Umar does not have an attorney. He's representing himself, but Chambers is the helper of sorts. Anyway, he set this hearing up because he wanted to delay the trial that's set to start here October 4th. And the reasons he gave, and I was sitting
sitting in the courtroom watching this, and this wasn't reported this way in the media, but he said, I just received the most significant evidence of the case. The most significant. Remember what my theory is. The U.S. government gave Umar an intentionally defective bomb, escorted him without a passport through security to stage this attack. Well, that's my theory. Here's what he says he got. A copy of Umar's passport. Okay. Why has this been withheld for 18 months? Did it take them that long to create it? I mean, come on. Don't you just make a copy and hand it over within a couple of weeks? Okay, number one. Number two, a disc containing a chemical analysis of the composition of the bomb. Perhaps, maybe the composition shows that it couldn't have exploded, as all the experts that have been hired so far have indicated, to Chambers anyway, and he's told that to me. Airport security video and audio. Okay, why was this withheld for 18, 19 months when it can clearly show what I've been saying all along? By the way, all of this is still under a protective order, so nobody can talk about it. No one can talk about the details of it. Judge Edmonds issued this early in January 10. I want to talk about that in a few minutes, but nobody can talk about the content of this. This is why we're not seeing it in the media. 4 discs of DNA analysis. I'm not really sure what that is, but okay. And the next thing that was turned over, a witness statement from a Dutch non-law enforcement citizen government profiler who talked to Umar during the time in question. And after thinking about this for a while, I think this would be the sharp-dressed man. And I think the sharp-dressed man is the person that asked these security questions in Amsterdam. They have an additional level of security there that we don't have here in the U.S. They have a security interview. And after looking at this, hearing Chambers talk, thinking about it, I'm thinking that this was the sharp-dressed man. So the next question is, why is his witness statement being withheld for 18 months or 19 months from Chambers? Why was this statement so important, or for whatever reason, withheld this long? Again, it's to give Chambers the least amount of time and least amount of resources to look into these things, to prepare a good case.
Now, Kurt, just briefly, for people that don't know the backside on this, and we have the clip from C-SPAN. If we have time, we'll play it, but the Detroit Free Press reported on it as well. The Undersecretary of State, Mr. Kennedy, testified on C-SPAN a month and a half after you made your claims, along with your wife, and since then others saw similar things, that the clearly disheveled, could have been drugged, out of it, Mutallab, not wearing a coat in freezing weather, is led on by the sharp-dressed man. There's a little bit of an argument with security, but this guy's so high up, he's able to get him on without the passport. You witness all this. They admitted there wasn't a passport. Now suddenly it's appeared. I mean, this gets weirder and weirder and weirder. So we know they got him on the plane. Please continue.
Yeah, the testimony by Patrick Kennedy, if you just watch the video of it on the internet, you'd see him squirming in his chair to lie and not say that this was an intentional plot. It's so obvious to anyone that watches it. So and then after that, what's also telling is nobody reported that there were hearings in Congress over this. If you look on the internet, the mainstream media, I think maybe the Detroit News and maybe one other newspaper even had an article about these hearings. You think these would be significant? Nobody talked about them because they were so telling that this was an obvious setup. And, from then on, you have the government saying, oh, yeah, we need to do this because of the underwear bomber case or that, this or that. They all refer to this case as a basis to do whatever they want for spending and to cut down on our rights. So it's so telling. And if the people would just see, hey, this is a setup here, then everyone would be questioning, well, why do we have body standards to airports? Why are we spending all this on TSA? Why are they now going to NFL stadiums or whatever? It's just totally ridiculous, in my opinion, and it's so obvious. Something I really haven't talked about yet, and I've shied away from this somewhat, is discussion about Judge Edmonds. I watched her in the courtroom quite a few times, and she doesn't seem to be biased if you watch her in the courtroom, but the more I think about her rulings, the more I have an issue with her. We'll just say that, because it's Judge Edmonds that put in this protective order that indicates that nobody can talk about the evidence at all. So you have you have the airport video, chemical analysis of the bomb, and all these other things that could be talked about. But instead, no one can talk about these things that would show that this was an intentional setup. It's all hush-hush. Of course, now Umar's representing himself. Is that any of this even going to come out? Probably not. Case closed. Let's move on. But not only that, a couple other rulings Judge Edmonds did, were along the same line. One was that since Chambers is only a standby attorney, he can only have the evidence that Umar decides to give him. So Umar gets all the evidence. Chambers can only see what Umar wants to give him. And then the second part of the July 7th hearing, which I didn't get to, was after Chambers complained that, hey, I was given all these things last minute, he then said, well, what have I not been given? Is there other evidence being withheld? How can I be sure I have everything? And instead of the prosecution saying, yes, you have everything now, they said, well, there is more evidence we're withholding. It's secret government evidence, and we're not going to turn it over. We're going to let you look at it, Judge Edmonds. And
so we're getting national security declared here, just like in Chicago last month. It's now been confirmed Sinaloa drug cartel did ship in massive tonnage of cocaine under U.S. government contract and guns into Mexico. I mean, this is just amazing how they declare this national security.
Right. And again, what is the official story? A crazy Al-Qaeda man goes through and lights off this bomb. Okay, where's the national security there? We have, again, 200 some eyewitnesses. We can easily go in and say, yeah, he lit this bomb. He should go to prison the rest of his life. Case closed. Where's the national security here? But again, that ties into another aspect of this. There's just so many offshoots to this.
Well, they find mentally ill people in all the big patsy cases and provocateur them to do these events, or they frame somebody and then threaten to kill their family, as we know happened with McVeigh.
So in this, something else that's kind of interesting here. It took the prosecution a year to charge Umar with conspiracy. Now, this was only after all plea negotiations had broken down do they bring out this charge. Obviously, they didn't want to make this charge because the next question is, and again, you don't see anyone talking about the conspiracy charge. It's not being reported anywhere. The news isn't talking about it. Why not? And the bigger question is, who are the co-conspirators? Why aren't they being charged? Why aren't they on the FBI's 10 most wanted list? Why isn't their participation being described? The evidence that there's conspiracy, where is it? And it all ties back to the same thing. The co-conspirators are undercover government agents. It's too obvious, Alex. It just all ties in together.
Kurt, that's the MO that we've seen over and over and over and over again. Even mainstream news the last 2 years admits where the FBI goes and creates out of whole cloth and finds mentally ill, welfare, ex-prisoner type to do this. I mean, they've been caught over and over again, not infiltrating groups, but purely creating them.
Right. It seems like their activities have no ends here because they control everything. They control the release of the information, what activities take place. They control the courts, the media. It's all a perfect setup. They have free reign to do anything they want. And it continues and it continues and still continues. If this were a legitimate situation, we would have Umar with a legitimate attorney presenting a case, presenting all the evidence accurately, calling people as witnesses like myself to testify in an entrapment case. We don't have that here. We're not going to see it, in my opinion. We're going to see Umar go and make some show that where all the media can report on him being a crazy nut job, and they can put pictures of it on TV and acting crazy and say, hey, this is a crazy terrorist. But the real story won't come out. It's being covered up, and I think it will always be covered up. At least that's the sense I'm getting now. And
Well, Kurt, I mean,